Hello, guys, and welcome back to another episode of OnReviewCast. Yeah, I'm your host here, Ash, and today we're going to be covering, surprise, Squid Game Season 2, Episode 1. Yeah, I know in the last one we said we wouldn't be doing any more of these, but I can't help it, guys. I can't help but talk about these amazing, fantastic, series that we have going on, and sometimes it's warranted. You gotta talk about it. You gotta channel your inner. You gotta channel your inner. What's it called? OnReviewCast. I forgot the name of my own show. Oh my god, that's hilarious. Gotta change your inner OnReviewCast. I didn't forget the name of my own show. I was actually just doing something at the same time, looking up this episode breakdown courtesy of Fandom. And here we go. First episode of season 2, episode 1 of Squid Game is called Bread and Lottery. And indeed it is called Bread and Lottery. Bread and Lottery is the first episode of the second season of the Netflix series Squid Game. It's the 10th episode overall and was directed by Hwang Dong-hyuk and written also by Hwang Dong-hyuk. Yeah. Synopsis. A vengeful Gi-hun makes a U-turn at the airport later in his hideout. He intensifies his search for the elusive recruiter who is seeking new players for the game. Oh yeah, guys. Yeah. So we're here back again with OnReviewCast, and welcome, guys, if you haven't been here before. This is the show where we go down and review all your favorite video games and media, and we talk about them and give them a score and talk about how great they are and great detail. This is the podcast, guys. Welcome. Okay, so jumping right into this. It's the first time we're ever covering Squid Game on review, but we're doing it, and I'm excited definitely to be talking about this. For those of you who don't know Squid Game, where have you been? This is one of the most popular things that's ever one of the most popular shows to ever hit since, I don't know what, Game of Thrones. Very popular show. And don't worry about that, guys, if you still are waiting on us to finish the review for House of the Dragons, that's coming as well. Part of the whole Game of Thrones universe, but don't worry about that, guys. Definitely coming on that, so it might be up already. Go ahead and check those out, and go ahead and check all those OnReviewCast videos out as well. We will be here. But Squid Game season 2. So basically, if you don't know, like I said, about Squid Game, it's the synopsis of it is basically we get a bunch of people who are essentially down on the luck, interacting with this organization that offers them a chance to make it big and make it big and get rich by winning children's games. But the only thing, there's a twist. There's a twist. The twist is if you lose these games, well, you forfeit your life. So you can't play again. So you can't go twice. So I don't know. Yeah, that's that. That's basically the main premise of the show. And our main character, Gi-hun, Song Gi-hun, is essentially coming in right off the heels of season 1, is essentially the winner of these games for season 1. He won the Squid Games. He survived. He was the main guy who made it through all of those deaths, all those craziness. And can we just talk about season 1 for a second? Season 1 was crazy, wasn't it, though? We had so much, first time interacting with the games and seeing how they would be. It was a fresh new look on it. And there are some things and some similarities that they actually pulled from the first and the second one. Sorry. So jumping right into this, we see Gi-hun essentially coming off the plane, right? And he's coming off the plane, and he is he's still sporting this fabulous red hair dye style cut that he was going to go off to and catch up with his daughter in America. Meet his daughter in America. But he decides to turn around at the last second, just like another synopsis says, and he decides to stick it to the man and say, no, you know what? I'm not done with the games. The games aren't done with me either. I'm going to figure out who's doing this shit and stop it in this country. Which is, honestly, in my opinion, something really, really, really I want to say noble. I know like tons of people who wouldn't have been like, fine, you know what, fuck this shit, I'm going off to try to live my own life. But in the hindsight, we see Gi-hun, a very exposed Gi-hun in the bathroom a few minutes later in this first episode, and he is taking out a tracker that is actually in behind his ear, which he was using to track him, which is how they knew exactly where he was and what he was doing, and which is why he got that strange phone call in the airport that basically told him, you know, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you fucking getting off that plane? What the fuck are you doing? You better get on that fucking plane. We let you live. Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like that part, like I thought that made sense. They had to be tracking these motherfuckers some way and somehow. And I only think about like the previous winners now of the actual games, who was probably chipped in some kind of way, and like who actually, the other side of that is like, what about those individuals who left the country or who went on to live their lives, or thinking that they're peaceful now, and they're thinking that they're actually free, quote unquote free. Are they actually free? Are they actually, you know, living their best or privileged lives? Because I mean, like, realistically, if they're being chipped and being followed and their actions are being, you know, tracked by this hidden organization, basically Organization 13, Kingdom Hearts. Yeah, so they're basically Organization 13, because if you think about it, they all wear the hoods. The hoods aren't black though; they're pink, and the hoods aren't black. And the only thing that's black on the usual uniforms that these guys wear, only one guy wears black. One guy's wears black and wears the mask, the stone black mask, you know, just for copyright infringement, because Kingdom Hearts would have been like, hey, that's our shit. But the rest of them wear like these pink jumpsuits, the workers or whatever, for the actual games. But anyway, getting back to the main thing that I was talking about, I only imagine the other side of it, those individuals who didn't leave Korea, who would have stayed, and like they're living a blissful, ignorant life, who didn't fight back, or who probably didn't want to fight back. There's a lot of stuff from like season 2. Guys, honestly, if you haven't seen season 1 of Squid Game, go and watch Squid Games. I gave you the basic premise of it, but it's so good. It's really worth to watch. Anyway, so we found a very exposed Gi-hun, like I said. He takes out the tracker, and he finds the tracker and he takes it out, and he notices that like he notices that he's being tracked, and this is the way they actually figure out that he's being tracked. And I just bringing that up, that's another, because this is on review, guys. We've seen the entire series. I only consider like what's like gonna happen for season 3 now that season 2 is done, and what's gonna happen in terms of like what they're gonna do for season 3 or moving forward. What will be interesting moving forward is if they did a show where the winners came back, or like all stars, you know, some shit like that. Yeah, something kind of crazy like that. But man, this season was really, really good. But anyway, getting back to the episode. So in this episode, we also got caught up with Jun-ho. Jun-ho, the main guy who was behind the black mask. If you guys don't know, that's his name. Jun-ho, his brother, the cop that was on the island, he got shot, and we find out a few months later. It kind of does this time skip where he is now a traffic cop, and you know, he's still living with the trauma of the fact that, you know, his brother was basically running this entire show and essentially shot him. Something that was really cool, I don't know if you guys noticed this, a little on review fact, is that it was a mirror image of the two brothers, the contrast between them standing opposing one another on that cliff. I forgot that he had shot off a bullet when he was still masked. He shot him right in the right shoulder, and then his brother shot him right in the left shoulder. So they mirrored one another, and they showed them like standing side by side, standing across from one another, to show that basically contrast of, oh, he's on the good side and he's on the bad side. I thought that was actually, cinematography wise, that was actually really, really cool. But yeah, so in this episode we get the flash forward, like I said, a few years now has now passed, and Gi-hun has been not looking too hot, not looking too good. He's been a little bit stressed, freaking out a little bit. And he is freaking out because he is been trying to actually find these motherfuckers with the help of the mafia. These, I want to say, mafioso type, you know, Yukaza, not Yukaza because that's a Japanese thing, but like, you know, what I'm trying to basically say. These Asian mobsters that shark loans or whatever, shark lenders, who was fucking him up ironically in the first season, are now his allies, and he's paying them a bunch of money to be his eyes and ears, to be on the lookout for you know, the first guy that he interacted with in the first season. You know, and I thought that was actually kind of really interesting because like that's what a twist, right? The same guys who was fucking him up in the first episode, tracking him down in the horse races, are now his allies. I mean, I just goes to show you never really know where you are in the next couple of years. One day you could be broke trying to make YouTube videos and going through analysis, and the next thing you know, you could be a millionaire. Oh, I wish. I definitely wish. Speaking of which, guys, did you hear about the Patreon? If you haven't heard about the Patreon, go ahead and visit the Patreon inside of the comments there in the YouTube comments. You should be able to see the Patreon. Go ahead and you know, subscribe and donate to Ashley and Amelie if you like what we do here. Yeah, if you do, if you don't, then I understand too. Well, thanks for listening. Anyway, so continuing on with the episode. Thanks for listening. That's our episode. No. Continuing on with the episode, we've got yeah, so these mafiosos are basically essentially helping him. He's got more eyes and ears, scouring basically the town, looking for the guy who he essentially came in contact with for the first go around. And if you guys remember in season 1, the first go around, how he even got involved in these games, he got the card in the first place because he was recruited by some guy in the metro station that challenged into a game of dachi, I want to call it. Also, guys, if I butcher any of these pronunciations, I'm sorry. I'm not Korean, dude. I'll just be straight up. Yeah, I'm not Korean. I'm not Korean. I'm not gonna get them right. And also, guys, I'm really random question though. Let me know. Sub a dub. Squid wins in the comments. Sub a dub. Which one are you watching it in? I'm trying it in the dub. It's not bad. Obviously, it's the dub. But then, like, I'm going back on review. I'm actually watching it in the Korean version, so it's a little here and there. It's like I noticed that you have more passion, you hear more energy within the Korean version, and I think I've said this before in the cast with like different languages and talking. But yeah, that's basically what it is. So anyway, so back to what we were getting back to the episode actually here. So we actually get to catch up with the cop who got shot. His brother Jun-ho. Essentially, Jun-ho is now like I said, he's a police officer. He got caught up with him, but he's not given up the fight on finding exactly where the fuck is this island, because what the fuck, you know, you got shot by this island, you got to see your brother, he's got a lot of questions for his brother, you know, what the fuck is it? What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? You know, I mean, probably would not so much studying, but he probably would be definitely asking that question, you know, what the fuck is this? So he's enlisted the help of a fisherman who he's been sailing around with for 2 years, the same amount of time that Gi-hun has actually been looking for the guy in the suit who essentially challenged him to the game of dachi. And so he's been looking around with the islands, and his character is we'll learn more about his character later, but I will say his character, the fisherman I'm talking about now, is very, very I feel like the way that they shot this first episode is like, pay attention to him a little bit. And I was kind of like, my guard was kind of operated like from off the bat. You're looking for this thing for 2 years, and you need to help the fisherman, but you still can't find the shit. Like, you know, yeah. But anyway, so later in the episode, we have essentially they actually find the guy, which is nuts to me. You know, and what are the odds of actually being able to identify and track down this one guy who you've been tracked down for 2 years? And realistically, what I'm thinking too is, now I'm thinking about it, they probably weren't able to find that guy for 2 years because they probably weren't, the games were probably realistically still happening, but they knew that Gi-hun was probably like on the lookout because that's the way they approached him. And later in the season, we get to see a little bit more insights as to how they actually do certain things, I think. But I think they definitely would have different recruiting methods for bringing people into the games. I don't really remember exactly how it was in season 1, if they were actually really revealed that, but I would imagine so. And that's probably why we didn't see this guy in the suit actually play those games. So anyway, you get to see a really fucked up scene. You guys know the one I'm talking about if you've seen this episode before, where he's essentially torturing, and I will say it is torture because it's a psychological torture of some homeless people in the park. Where he bought a bunch of fucking bread, and a bunch of sweets or whatever, and he had bought also a bunch of fucking lotto tickets, and he told the homeless people that he interacted with to choose one. Now here's why this is a seriously, I get the reason for the scene. The reason for the scene is to show how mentally ill, psychologically fucked this guy is, right? Because he would rather stomp on a bunch of buns, which he then later does after he psychologically messes with the homeless people, telling them to choose one, and most of them, you know, choose the lotto. I think only one guy chose the actual bread, which I know we're getting a little bit off topic here. It kind of makes sense. Like it depends on like where exactly you are, because realistically, and let me know you guys in the comments agree, if you're in a position like that where, you know, you are homeless or whatever and you're in the park, but if you had the food already, the likelihood of you potentially winning, it could be there. But also you want to make sure that you have enough, you have food. If you don't have food, you have eaten to that day, you probably would choose the bread, right? I mean, like, his reasonings was essentially that they wasted it and they chose the incorrect choice, or they chose the other choice of not eating and actually deciding to gamble or bet their lives. I'll put everything on their lives on the lottery ticket, which I mean it's a subjective kind of like choice, I feel like, in my opinion. That's all I'm trying to really get at. Anyway, so this psycho son of a bitch who they actually find, and they start torturing, like I said, these people that are homeless. They find him and he has a complete fucking meltdown, like I said, stomping on this bread, for all the bread that the people didn't essentially eat or that didn't choose, making an entire scene. And this is from the two guys that was actually following him, that was in the mafia, trying to track him down. Now, I'm not I mean, I guess realistically, maybe you could argue that, like, hey, you know, maybe that was all an act. Maybe that was all an act, and maybe that was all just for show, because he knew that he was being essentially followed by those two guys. But I think that, considering what we know about the games and considering, I don't know, the involvement, the kind of people that are involved in the games, I think that there are definitely some sick individuals or sick sons of bitches out there who would be like, oh yeah, we get to, it's a philosophical fucking thing that, like, we get to control people's fate. I think it does come down to like I said, like him just essentially being psychologically fucked. Like, why would you torture people essentially like that? And we confirm this psychological torture, the psychological fuck, even more when, you know, the two guys are tracking him down and they make the decision to go ahead and try to, you know, take this random individual who they know nothing of, who they only heard about in stories. They try to kidnap him essentially. And even though Gi-hun, main star, was talking to them over the phone during this entire encounter and telling them that, you know, yo, chill, don't fucking go after these guys quite yet, because, I mean, if you go after these guys, like, they're kind of dangerous. Don't engage. They wait for me to don't engage. And they should have listened to that, because we truly see the most fucked up scene, in my opinion, ever. So guys, if you watched it, you know what I'm talking about, the Russian roulette scene. And I fucking hate when they do Russian roulette. It's in any kind of movies and any kind of scene or anything like that. I think first of all, I hate guns in general, but like, I think that's the most uncomfortable, whoever came up with that shit, it's the most uncomfortable, high intense, like, scene that you could actually do while watching television. For me, to me, it always gets me. It always makes me feel so, you know, like, let me know if you guys think in the comments. Like, it's an old thing. It's been done. Yes, everybody does the Russian roulette thing, but it's like, you know. It's like it's such a high intensity thing. So they play Russian roulette, and the game is a little bit different though. They add the component of the rock paper scissors into it, and the rock paper scissors is it's not just rock paper scissors. It's rock paper scissors -1. So essentially, if you guys were paying attention to the entire game thing, I don't know how you could miss this in the episode, but it's essentially the game goes like you do rock paper scissors with 2 hands, and then you choose which hand to pull back, and then that's the one who basically who's the victor or whatever it is. And this Psycho 6 son of a bitch, which, okay, well, first of all, back up a little bit. It was 2-on-1, like how the guy said. It was 2 goons of the mafioso versus the one guy in the suit who Gi-hun first met. And he was somehow able to tie them up, knock them out, tie them up. He must be some kind of like real crazy, it's that crazy strength, you know, that's psychologically fucked out of his mind strength that he was able to take down 2 guys. Like this, it also like kind of alludes to the organization that he works with is a little bit more, you know, in depth, as we find out, I think a little bit more, and with the main character, the main villain, as we go through the season. But more on that later. So they play the game of rock paper scissors -1, and they're playing, and they're getting lucky. They're both getting lucky. So he's firing the gun, but it's not going off. And this psychopath gets bored. He's like, "Oh, let's reverse the odds. I'm bored. Let's reverse the odds." And now, instead of, because it's 1 bullet in the chamber, you have a 5 and 6 chances of surviving. Now you only have a 1 and 6 chances of surviving. And they start playing rock paper scissors -1, rock paper scissors -1. He goes over and over it again until. And they keep which is more and more. The cinematography behind this is amazing, because which makes it more and more interesting is that like they kept tying, and then they made a situation where it was like one of the guys both picked rock, and one of the guys picked rock and scissors. So the scissors and paper. So it's like his fate was essentially in the other guy's hands, and and with the whole music behind it going to like. How it was just a beautiful scene. I think this is really well done. This is a really, really strong scene. It just set the tone of these games are going to be, the season 2 is going to be a little bit more like season 1, but also a little bit different too. So I think that this is definitely a strong opener for I mean, essentially, this is the first game. Yeah, it's essentially for how the games are going to be played. And what happens is that the guy who had the scissors and the paper didn't pull back one, so he was disqualified, and so he gets blasted in the head and essentially dies during that scene. Very, very powerful scene. Like I said, very, very strong. But yeah. Later in this episode, we also get to find out they play another game. After that scene is the guy that's in the suit is actually meets up with Gi-hun in his apartment, and he's kind of like, "Yo, so you've been looking for me?" He's like, "Yeah, I've been looking for you." And the guy's like, "Well, here I am. Want to play a game?" Like essentially like Saw. No, he talks to him essentially about how, you know, he's essentially just a lapdog and he wants to talk to his masters, the guys who are actually running this fucking show. And like, first of all, a couple of things. The balls, the brass balls on Gi-hun to just like, first of all, this entire sequence, what happens next, because it's still shocking. Guess what, guys? It's more Russian roulette. Surprise, surprise. So they before they start playing Russian roulette, they talk about how, you know, he's just a puppet, and how he essentially didn't believe that he was essentially trash for finding himself in the games in the first place. And throughout this series that we go through, guys, and we're going to be definitely talking about more and more about, you know, ends justifying the means of actually them being inside of this game, and the intelligence of, you know, pushing forward versus knowing when to basically quit. We'll definitely dive into that. But I mean, this what happens next is just absolutely crazy. So they start playing. Well, he tells them the story about how he shot his fucking dad, and alluding more to the fucked up mindset of this guy, because the guy's dad, who was in the suit, the guy in the suit who basically, his dad was in the part of the games, And he said he found his dad in the part of the games and he just shot him. And it was like essentially nothing for him. He was like, he questioned himself, can I do it? And he did. And he was like, oh, I guess I can do this. Like a pure fucking psycho crazy path. And then, like I said, they continue on playing Russian roulette. And then when they start playing, the intensity, like I said, of the scenes and the intensity of it was so great because they didn't just do Russian roulette and they didn't add the rock paper scissors element like I did in the previous game. What they did was he said let's play Russian roulette, and we'll put it's a six chamber gun. And we'll so we know there's a chance, a 1 in 6 chance. A 1-2-6 chance that the gun will essentially go off, because in an actual Russian roulette they spin the actual revolver every time they go, but instead of spinning it, they're just firing it, waiting for it to go off, because every time they pull the trigger, the roulette spins, getting closer and closer to that bullet, right? So it's just this scene as well. Very powerful, very, very intense as well. But also, like, I guess I'll preface, like, guys, I know that it's a TV show. Like, realistically, like, we all know that it's a TV show. And we all know that Gi-hun has to actually partake in the actual fucking game. So he wouldn't necessarily die here. Even though we knew that he wasn't going to necessarily, kick it here. He wasn't going to actually necessarily die here. It was still pretty fucking intense. And the reason I say that it was still pretty fucking intense, it was because throughout this, like, I didn't really know if, like, well, I guess the gun, they could have surprised that the gun could have gone off and not killed him. You know what I mean? And somehow he ends up in the games as well. Maybe he's got to pay for all the surgery and all his money is gone or something like that. And he's just like, he has to somehow get into the games again. They could have gone that way or something. Although that would have been a little bit less, a little bit less crazy. But then another thing they actually do, and he talks about, is like, what if, he's like, you have the gun now, you're closer, you know what you're thinking, you're getting scared, is this the bullet that's gonna basically take me out? I have the gun, and let me just shoot him in his ugly face. And that was something else, a sequence it's crazy, like every scenario that they presented, I just was kind of downloading it in my head or playing it out in my head. I was like, how would that look if he just kicks the table and he's like, oh, this is the bullet that's gonna kill me, so he turns the gun on him and he shoots him, or whatever. It was like some kind of action pack, like fucking thing just starts. So it was just like, it was really, really well done. The intensity and the gravity of the situation was definitely felt. Like I said, I hate when they do Russian roulette, but the moments when he was like putting the gun like in his mouth, and it was like, oh, is it gotta go off? Oh, that on the edge of our seats, essentially. So very, 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 very interesting concept. But at the end of this game, like we all know, like I said before, Gi-hun essentially loses this. Gi-hun essentially wins. What am I saying? He's alive. Gi-hun essentially wins this game, and the guy willingly, just because he didn't want to admit to Gi-hun that he was in some laptop and he was in control of his own fate. The guy in the suit was in control of his own fate. He willingly took his life. He knew that was a bullet that was going to kill him, and he was fine with it. And it goes off, and the episode ends. So yeah. Overall, I mean, very, very strong episode. A strong opener for season 2. I had no idea, and I had my little bit of worries, if I'm being honest, what they were going to do for season 2, because essentially they wrapped everything up, and for the most part, it kind of alluded in season 1 that he was going to go, he's going to fight back, but it was how are you going to fight back, and are you really going to get yourself caught up in these games again? How is he really going to be directly involved? Or is going to be, are we going to have a different main character? You know what I mean? I had a lot of questions. And how it goes is that the perspective, it looks like it's we're gonna get a little bit more information in terms of the villains and what they're about, and a little bit more insight, because we saw with the guy in the suit, he who invited him to games in the first place, he's just fucking a psychopath. He's just crazy. Season 1 was more about introduction into this whole world. Season 2 was more about the reason, I feel behind why these crazy people are involved, doing what they do. But yeah, guys, that's essentially gonna do it for us for the episode. But before we go, we're gonna get the on-review score. On-review gives Squid Game Season 2, Episode 1, it definitely 110%. I'm gonna say, guys, I think it's a 5. 5 out of 5. Like there was a strong, it was just strong overall. There wasn't any moments that lagged or dragged. It was like really, really good. There was things that was set up for later in the season as well. Overall, we're gonna give OnReviewCast gives, like I said, Squid Games a 5 out of 5. On the most appreciated scene of this, I'm definitely gonna say was the top scene of Squid Game season 2 episode 1 was definitely the scene with the Russian roulette with the two mobsters playing rock paper scissors -1. Definitely awesome. Anyway, guys, that's definitely going to do it for me. Thanks so much for listening. I appreciate it. And thanks for bearing with me through this YouTube channel. Like I said, don't forget to check out some of my music. Ashley Anomaly and Anomaly Beats. Those tracks are pretty awesome. And I heard, you know, in the summer or closer than the summer, he's going to be coming out with some new music song or he might be dropping a new track very, very soon. I mean, I'd look out for that. I would look out for that. Anyway, guys, like I said, thank you for joining me on this journey of, listening to me on this journey, talk about Squid Game Season 2, Episode 1. Thanks so much. Thank you. And like I said, I can always say at the end of these, guys, be safe, be kind, be you, take care.